Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire is a film where you absolutely need to turn your brain off. You're probably expecting that this is going to be a big film where you just watch a bunch of CGI fights, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't expect there to be any real storyline or interesting characters introduced, because there isn't. All the human characters we're introduced to in this film, as well as the ones we've seen in previous films that are like just brought back in this, they're just not interesting, and they're boring and generic, and they're horribly written, and they constantly are trying to be funny, but it's never actually funny. So when you're here, just try to enjoy the big CGI fights, which really there aren't that many compared to the other films within the series. But if I'm setting the stage for you, this movie takes place 3 years after the battle between Kong and Godzilla, where they ended up teaming up to fight the Mecha Godzilla, which was actually pretty interesting. In this film, Kong is he is now exploring Hollow Earth, which is sort of like this other region within the center of the Earth where all these big, brutish, like big monsters are living, and Kong is trying to find more of his kind down there. He inevitably does. He stumbles into this region where tons of different Kongs are living, none compared to him, of course. But the little baby Kong we're introduced in the trailer, he shows Kong around, and then they stumble into the Scar King, who is actually enslaving another one of the antagonists of the film, which is Shimo, another big Godzilla-esque character. And both Scar King and Shimo are interested in escaping Hollow Earth to take over the surface world, which is where we all live today. That's where Kong is. That's what's happening with him. It's mostly his movie. It's not so much Godzilla's movie. Godzilla, he lives on the surface, and his whole role in the movie is just defending Earth from all these other titans that are somehow surfacing all over the planet. And he's slowly just trying to level up because he sees an incoming threat, which is probably going to be Shimo and Scar King. That's pretty much all that happens in this film. We are introduced to a lot of different characters, and ambulance over there. We're introduced to a lot of different characters, human characters in this film that try to kind of lead us along the story, but they are just just completely uninteresting. So completely disregard them. Don't even think about them. Just enjoy the big CGI fights if that's what you're here for. And with all that being said, this movie is just completely mindless storytelling. Humans are generic, unlikable, and uninteresting. Everything's pretty dull. And another big problem with this film is a lot of it takes place in the Hollow Earth, and everything's already huge there. So we really don't have a good sense of scale. So Kong, alongside Scar King and all the other Kongs and the other weird beasts in that world, they don't seem like enormous creatures like they did in the other films. They just sort of seem like gorillas fighting each other or lizards fighting each other within the same plane. So there's really no big, massive scale in this film. They certainly, I don't know if they thought about that, but it just doesn't work. So it doesn't have that gravitas that the other films did. If I could speak kindly about this film, I would say that the fights are somewhat good and somewhat entertaining, and that Baby Kong is actually kind of an interesting part of the movie. I kind of enjoyed Baby Kong, and he plays an important role in the end of the film. So with all that being said, this movie did get a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's being very generous. I give it a 15%. Don't see this movie. Just don't see this movie. Do yourself a favor. Go watch Godzilla -1. It's probably on demand by now, and that one delivers a much better story and battle than this does. So with all that being said, don't see this movie. I'm BoxOfficeBrawler. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode, and I'll see you next time.